Hello and welcome to another episode of Workplace Wizards Podcast. This is episode number 34. And we've been talking in the last few episodes about how to develop great leaders. Well, today we want to continue with that. We're going to talk about great leaders communicate effectively and how do they communicate effectively. So we're going to have a little discussion about that today. I'm your host, Arnell Smalley, from coming to you live from Orlando, Florida. However, this weekend in Chicago watching my Pittsburgh Steelers play Chicago. Oh boy. Anyways, Gavin.
Well, my name's Gavin Wong, all the way from England, United Kingdom. So what's the Steelers? Is that some sort of netball team or something? What's that?
I'm just going to pass on that, Gavin. I'm just going to pass on that. The Pittsburgh Steelers. That's my team,
Are they underdogs, are they?
Yes, they are. This weekend, yes, but okay. We'll be all right. We tend to shine when we're not underdogs, so we'll see what happens. Anyways, Gavin, so we're talking about great leaders and how they communicate effectively. So where do we go from here, Gavin? Where do we go? Where do we continue from our past conversations when we're talking about how you adapt your leadership style to communicate, to connect, you have to adapt to different people's personality styles?
Well, I think what we used, because we spoke last time about being courageous in order to deal with conflict, things that might hold us back. And some of those things are our own personalities and behaviors and our values, I guess. And how we can use things like DISC. And obviously there's many different profiles that you can use. As long as you're kind of aware of yourself, that's a starting point. Excuse me. But maybe get an example of how people can use that. And it's just an example because clearly these things aren't set in stone, but it just might give people an idea of how to, if they've got a profile, well, actually, what do I do with that? Actually, how do I incorporate that into my daily life? And actually, we can give an example about maybe dealing with conflict between different styles.
Okay. So with that being said, you are a S style. We're talking about DISC. Since I am a certified everything DISC trainer, we're talking about DISC. You're an S style, which is a steady person, somebody who's very supportive, somebody who's give us some more things that relate to
supportive. I like to get things done. A coordinator. That type of role. I'm also a high I influencer, so I like to have that influence with people and value people, I guess, in that sense.
Explain that, Gavin, because if I said you're an S and you're saying you're an I also, what does that mean?
We have with this profile, like with all profiles, you're not only one thing. You're going to have a preference, and my preference would always be to be that steady person, to make things work, a finisher, get things done, but involve everybody and be a coordinator. And it's a bit like if I went to, I don't know, if I went to a function and I was talking to people I didn't know and it was all a bit quiet, I'd want naturally to start talking to fill the silence because I want it all to work.
Now, is that an S quality or is that an I quality?
Well, I think it's an S quality. Well, that's a good question. I think it's an S quality, but I think my I also impacts on that.
Right.
And that's why these things aren't. They're not binary. It's not one or the other. You will have a preference, but you'll be influenced by your other profile. I'm very low D and I'm a very low C as well. So but my high S, low C I'm quite stubborn as well. So that kind of plays out. we would have thought, eh?
Okay, let's preface this by saying, first and foremost, there is no diagnosis of a personality style. There is no diagnosis of a personality style. Like Gavin had mentioned, you're a little bit of everything. It might be lower in some of the other categories. Like myself, I'm a high D, or I'm a strong D with a high I. So both me and Gavin both have some of that I influencer in us. However, my go-to is back to a D. That's where I perform most comfortably. That's where I can relate a lot easier. Now, however, let's say, for instance, if I'm going to a funeral, and when I'm at the funeral, I would be more of an S type. I'd be more of the supportive type. I'd be more, making sure everything's all right. I'd talk a little bit slower. I'd slow down my pace. I'd be a little bit more concerned with making sure that everyone's okay, how people are doing, how people are feeling, and those qualities would come out of me. But that's a stretch for me. It's not something that just comes normal. I have to actually work to try to get there. So when we're talking about different personality styles, let's get back to what we were talking about. That's how do we have effective communication when we're dealing across personality styles?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking you are a strong D, so just call it dominant over in the States. So it's direct. I know what you're. I mean, because DISC around the world has different headings for the DISC, but say it's dominant. Is that the phrase you use? Or do you say
direct?
Okay,
direct, dominant.
Yeah. Okay. So you're high, dominant, direct. You're probably driven by outcomes and getting things done and to the point.
Right.
And so if I was going to deal with you in conflict, just very simply, I would deal with you very differently to say maybe someone who's a high C or high S.
Explain.
So if I'm coming to you and I've got conflict with you and I want to deal with that, and I take your view on this, I'm guessing that you're not going to want me to beat about the bush.
That is correct.
Yeah, I'm going to
want you to be direct.
Exactly, and you want me to be direct. Okay,
right.
So if I'm sitting there for 5 minutes, sort of umming and ahhing and talking about the weather, you want me to get to the point. And actually, that's quite important because how I act with you will determine how you respond. So on some levels, you want me to stand my ground and be firm and say how it is. I wouldn't necessarily argue with you. This isn't an opportunity for me to argue with you, but I would be firm, okay? And it'd all be about facts for me. I'd be presenting facts to you and giving it that. But I would be not messing about here. I'm just going to go to the point and say what it is. How would you want to be treated, I guess?
Well, that's you've reached a point. I mean, you've made some great statements there. But as a S, if you were an S, high S, and you're talking to a D, you have to be very assertive. You have to, basically look them in their eye and let them know that, hey, you're standing your ground, and this is the facts. These are what's going on. This is be very direct, and you're going to come across very, very good to a D. However,
yes,
it's not the same if I was an I.
No. But for you, I think as a strong D, you'll respect me if I stand my ground.
Yes, very much.
I'm telling you off, then you want to, you want to kind of. I've got to be up to that. But you're going to still try and dominate the conversation.
Most likely, a D will try to dominate the conversation.
Yeah,
that's what they do. You'll notice that a D, when an S is talking to a D, you'll notice that the D is going to interrupt a lot.
Yes,
because they want to dominate that conversation.
Yes. So I think the point for me about dealing with a strong D is you've got to be assertive, look them in the eyes, you say, go with facts, but you're not there to argue because you're not going to win the argument. Okay. So if you're coming out with a point, so I'll allow you to have your point. Okay. But I'm going to go, my go-to place is going to be facts and figures. Okay. This is about the outcomes and what's happening here. I'm not there to argue with you because you'll be defensive because you don't
believe
like
it or not, and
Mhm.
believe it or not, that is where you gain your respect.
Okay.
Dealing with the D. That's where you gain your respect. You know, and it's not that it has nothing to do with the D being right or wrong, but
Yes.
their personality style, they will respect you for standing your ground. They will respect you for hey, let's not waste, don't waste your time, don't waste mine. That's where the respect comes in.
Yes. This is what it is. Just tell me if I messed up. I might own it, but just tell me. Okay. Yeah, I like that. And I think what that is kind of just tells us is that, as you said, this isn't so scientific. This is the only way of doing it because all your other profiles play into it. But if you're very strong and you're very, very dominant, and they're very often the people that people fear the most in terms of conflict,
Right?
because it's going to be difficult. They are going to get this person trying to dominate that conversation and pushing back. And actually, if you're not prepared to, if you're not aware of that, and it becomes a bit of a shock, then you're going to be on your back foot. But if you know that before you go into that meeting or have that conversation, that this is going to be their natural response, that's fine. Let them do it. Okay. But don't argue with them. Okay. And just think about how you're going to approach it. It's about facts and figures, results, outcomes. Then you're more likely to be able to do it. And as you say, if you can gain their respect by just challenging them, that's really quite important. So I think that's just an example of how you can use those profiles to give you the courage to address people.
All right, Gavin, I love that. I love this topic. You know, I can go on for days just talking about this, but let's reverse it real quick. We don't have much time, but within the next minute, let's reverse it. Now a D is coming to an S about a conflict situation. How does the D approach the S?
Well, how would you approach me then if I'm an S?
All right. Well, first of all, I'm not going to come in strong because I understand you're an S. I want to show that I have appreciation for everything that you do.
Yeah.
You know, because that's the first thing you want to get to their what they value is being noticed for their appreciation of what they do. A value that they are supportive and that you take the time out to make sure that everybody else is okay, and then give them some accolades first. And then come with the point that, all right, now, even though, Gavin, you're doing a great job here, but here's the one thing that we want to look at. That's the way you move that. Now, if I come to you that way, how are you going to respond?
Yeah, that's better for me because I think there's something for me about feeling valued. Okay, in terms of what I do, and particularly because I'm actually links a little bit to my DISC profile, but I'm I'm very ethical. Okay. Tell me I've done something wrong. I don't mind actually being told I've done something wrong because that's fine. But I also want to recognize what I am doing well as well. So yeah, that approach would be much better for me in terms of if you're going to tell me off or tell me I've done something wrong. Wouldn't happen. I don't think it's ever happened, Smalls. I don't think it's ever happened. No one's ever told me off.
I understand, Gavin. You're that perfect one. Hey, but we have to conclude for the day. But hey, this is a topic like I said, we're going to park our car here. We're going to park here. We're going to talk about this. How do we develop great leaders? And effective communication is a valuable point that we need for all great leaders to have. So how can you improve your communication style? Is how can you improve your communication? Is learning the different ways, being more emotional intelligent about learning other people's behavior styles. That's being aware, social awareness of how people deal with the way you speak to them. And if it starts causing more conflict, then maybe we need to change the way we talk to each other. All right. So that's it for the day. Like I said, we're going to continue this next week. Join us for Workplace Wizards podcast because we're going to help HR professionals improve their workplace environment. Reach us at 9754-971-7007. And for now, we're going to say goodbye.
Go Steelers.
Go Steelers.